Hey everybody, I'm Laurie Ruettimann, and I'm here today with my dear friend Mary Ellen Slayter to talk about the Shift 2021 Career Summit. But more importantly, we're just here today to talk about what we text about on a weekly basis, the things that irritate us about the future of work and what we're doing to fix it. And this week we've got a doozy because Mary Ellen and I are worked up about student loan debt. And I will just go first. I will say that I graduated from college in 1997 with $48,000 worth of student loan debt. And that is worth double what it is today. And when I left university, I was like, well, I could go to law school and I could do a million things, but instead I wound up in human resources paying off my student loans. So, Mary Ellen, I believe student loans is one of the biggest things holding our workforce back. But you tell me, what do you think?
So I think that a way I like to think of it is like if education is going to be so critical, we talk continuous education and learning, all this learning, we can't do that with a model that depends on asking like young people to mortgage their futures essentially against their educations, because then you can't ever go back. And this isn't even about, fancy people who get an undergrad and then you go get a graduate degree and then you get a PhD and it's so useless, right? This is about even just basic skills acquisition. So I think sometimes we act like people are getting these useless degrees, but the degrees all cost the same, right? And you can't go back and acquire the skills that you're going to need, like the technical skills. Like it's a real obstacle. It's an obstacle if you're still paying off debt. So for context, for me, I graduated in 1999 and I graduated from LSU, which is a public university, which at the time, 2/3 of the cost of running the university came from taxpayer dollars, right? Mm-hmm. So we got a good deal. And I walked out the door with a 4-year degree with $14,000 in student loan debt. And I remember thinking, gosh, that was a lot of money. But then I went to grad school a few years later through a combination of the Washington Post, my employer at the time, picking up the tab, some scholarship money. And then I also still had to borrow. And I had to borrow it was like $30-something thousand. I don't remember the exact number because it kept growing even though I was paying it, which is another thing that I think a lot of people who get involved in this conversation don't realize, that people are trying to pay these debts off. Here I am now, I'm 44. Almost 44. I, by all accounts, am financially successful. I've paid off my student loans. I still want student loan forgiveness for everybody else, and I mean everybody. Wow. And I want us to rethink how we fund education, because without education, without access to education, we have no workforce for the future.
Before we get to reconfiguring education, let's talk about what happens if we just forgive student debt. Because a lot of people think that these are lazy, snobby, creative writing professionals, right, who just want to walk away from their debt. But what we found during the pandemic is that individuals like me, and I don't have student loan debt anymore, but people who are a decade younger who do, had a deferment on their loan payment, and they were able to pay their rent. They were able to take care of themselves, and they don't work in universities, as Antifa spokespeople. They work in marketing, they work in sales, they work in procurement. They're like me, they have happenstance careers. And so I really understand now, especially through the lens of COVID, that when we almost forgive this debt, we free up a chunk of capital that we can reinvest in American families, American workers, and in the American economy. So I just feel like it's important to talk about that, because all of this money that was borrowed is just going back to SoFi and whatever Sally became, and it's not circulating through our economy. And if you believe in Reagan and you believe in trickle-down economics, you got to believe that some of that money would sure be good in the hands of small businesses today.
Right. So they're extracting the companies you just described. That is the essence of extracting wealth as opposed to creating it. Right. They're just taking a cut. The other thing that I find really interesting is that people, like you mentioned, the creative writing major, who they determined that even if we cap student loan forgiveness at around, I think there's a cap at like $50,000 a person, which is not actually an extraordinary amount of money anymore, because we've allowed the cost of tuition to skyrocket way past the rate of inflation. Right. So if we were to forgive that, the majority Black people, like Black borrowers, would in fact benefit more than white borrowers. In some ways, this is a form of reparations, and I'm here for it. Okay, so by all means, let us give that money. Lower income families, regardless of race, primarily benefit. This includes people, not just people who got their creative writing degree, or whatever art degree or whatever it is that we want to denigrate this week. Although I hate to tell everybody, do you know what major is like the highest paid in the undergrad? If you come 5 years out, they make the most money. It's philosophy.
Yeah. Going into data science. That's why.
There's a lot of reasons for that. Like one feeling like you're like in a position to go major in philosophy. Fine arts majors do great too. But what is happening is that we're giving this money, and it allows people to go back to school. It allows people to invest in their kids' educations. It allows them to buy slightly bigger homes. All the things that people have been shitting on millennials for, saying like millennials killed the house, millennials killed the top sheet. No, they can't afford a top sheet. Okay, so if you just free this up, I don't know why this isn't obvious to other people, but working class professionals are very much in this group. Nursing school isn't free unless you're already working somewhere, but they don't want to hire you if you don't already have a degree. Let's talk about nursing specifically, because that's always held out as this, oh my God, we have such a shortage. Well, just go to nursing school and you'll be great. Nobody wants to hire the brand new nursing school grad. And you still had to pay for school to get to that point. And nobody wants an LPN anymore. They only want RN is the barrier to entry. Kids, that's a 4-year degree.
Well, I have a dear, I don't mean to step on you. It's this lovely connection of mine. I have a dear friend who worked in human resources, and I write about her in the book. She said, I would rather scrape the shit off people's teeth than do open enrollment ever again. And so she went back and went and became a dental hygienist, accumulated several, tens of thousands of dollars in student loans, and came out. And the barrier to entry of being a dental hygienist is you have to pay for licensing fees. You have to pay for all kinds of extra continuing education. She would have come out ahead staying in human resources. So it's kind of like we talk about trade school being this thing that's going to free up the economy and make people happy. Not everybody needs to go to university. They can go to trade school. Trade school is still $10,000 to $15,000 a year. So, and on top of that, with the licenses that we require at the state. So there's just all this myth making around education. And I know, Mary Ellen, you're passionate about rethinking education. So what are some of the solutions?
So one of the things I want to see us do, we long ago broke the contract between employers and employees when it came to paying for education. And this might seem wild, but at one time you came in these major corporations. If you could think about the Fortune 500 and their equivalents, you would come get an entry-level job, and then you would work on the job, and that employer would pay a lot of money to continue to train. Part of the bargain is that you would stay. Right. So now, and then you would learn and you would move up, and it was entirely possible for someone to come in and start off as a janitor, right, and make it up to the C-suite. That was possible in the 70s and the 80s in a way that is not possible anymore, because what happens is people, first of all, cleaning is outsourced. So my friend Neil Irwin, who's going to be one of our speakers at Shift, he has a great story that he wrote about in the New York Times about the difference between the levels of opportunity that exist now. 20 years makes all the difference. Now, if you're cleaning, if you're cleaning a boardroom, you're probably a contractor, and it is a dead end job with low wages, no benefits, nothing, certainly no access to education. And in the companies that are still paying for education, investing in it, they've capped it at these numbers. They haven't changed since the 90s, Laurie. I'm still seeing these $2,500 tuition reimbursement credits. And it's like, what do y'all think that buys? That's not even a book.
No, and the tax code hasn't kept up with it either. It used to be that if you did spend extra on your education, you could write that off in a very lucrative way for you as an individual wage earner, and that is capped off as well. So we have not invested in retraining in America, and yet part of what's holding us back with workers coming back to work is that many of them are retraining right now. Many of them are doing online courses, or they're going through programs at their local university. So this is starting to happen again. People are investing in themselves. They're betting on themselves. So I'm a little encouraged, but I'm not encouraged about the debt that many people have.
I don't want them to have to borrow to do this. And so it's funny you mentioned the coming back to work. There's that whole situation where people are complaining, well, I can't get anybody to work here. And I think that one of the things that's interesting about that is you mentioned in some cases it's because people, they're not coming back to their restaurant job because unemployment is so good. They're not coming back because they're busy learning how to be a painter, and they're learning how to be a plumber. And we have this myth that everybody who does minimum wage work, that it's not, well, we don't have to pay those people well. We don't have to give them benefits. We don't have to treat them like other workers because this is for teenagers and are people just passing through. It's not intended to be a permanent job. Well, now that we're sitting here and people are going, yeah, okay, you're right. It's not intended to be a permanent job. So while I'm here, I got a breather. All right, I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to be a nurse. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Like, because the number one category of worker in America in terms of our levels of education is some college.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
A lot of our some colleges are going to get all the college or they're doing something they don't like or that isn't lucrative and they're retraining. So the unemployment, you cut unemployment if you want, but they're not coming back to work at your shitty retail ice cream shop like that one guy. Like, anyway.
We've created a million articles about this. I really feel strongly, though, that until we have a strategy, a national strategy around education and retraining, we're going to be stuck in this infinite loop, making the same mistakes over and over again in the workforce. And if we want to move forward, if we want a more progressive way of living, if we want a more profitable way of running our organizations, don't rely on the government, fine, but really rethink your own training and development strategy. That's what I would challenge our professionals to do. Yeah.
So I think there's that corporate part. So one, if you are a business, if you're in the position, if you're in HR and you have the position to shape these programs, my God, go look at them and see if it's kept up with the pace of inflation and with your own business needs. As an individual, from a policy standpoint, I'd love for us to return to investing in our public institutions of education, right? Like I want to go back to like $100 credit hour at LSU, right? Like bring it back. I mean, they have completely gutted that budget. So our public institutions, like let's reinvest in them so that they become those centers of mobility that they once were. And then the third thing I think I would like to see, and this is similar to kind of with UBI, like if we are going to be tasked with maintaining our skills at such a rapid rate, what's that stat they float around, 5 years, your skills are at their half-life?
Yeah.
I think there should be money, essentially Pell Grant for everybody, like all the time, not just for that first undergrad. Like that first undergrad doesn't mean anything anymore, nor does grad school. But you should have some amount of money that you can go and work and claim that, and like make it a credit. I don't even want to see like a tax deduction. I want a credit.
I love it.
Get this money to spend, and it's use it or lose it. It's learn or lose it.
Well, it looks like we've got a comment from Dean Shaw who says the college education system is sham and ripe for disruption. And who doesn't disagree with that? I mean, that's the way
it's worse. So I want to tell me, Dean, what would you change? So because people from a lot of different persuasions say that, but I find that we often have very different ideas about what the solution should be. So I would love to hear more about what you think the biggest problem is.
Well, and as we wait for Dean to respond or anybody to leave a comment, one of the things we're focused on at Shift is not waiting for the government or not waiting for a corporation to retrain you. We are here focused on your individual development. And it's really important for us that you understand that the future of work improves when you improve yourself. And so that's really the philosophy that was behind the development of the Shift agenda. And I know, Mary Ellen, you wanted to highlight a speaker this week.
Oh, yes. So speaking of training for jobs, in some cases, jobs that don't even exist yet, right? We're asking people to be prepared for work that we don't even know, like what it's going to look like in many years. So Christopher Bishop was someone who came in and joined our lineup. He was sorry, that's my dog. Hang on. Here.
I'm sure Christopher Bishop would love to be with Lana at any point.
Sorry, Christopher Bishop. We should have him come in. So he's going to talk about how to prepare for jobs that don't yet exist. And I think that his approach to continuous learning and to investing in your career, and instead of being afraid of these changes that are coming, he's got this really great, optimistic, pragmatic approach to getting yourself ready for it so that you can capitalize on it, so that you can benefit from it. And again, have a life and a career that you love that supports your dreams. And I think I'm really looking forward to his presentation.
Well, I'm looking forward to it too. And I know Dean will be there because he believes in education as a service, ongoing life as a subscription, which I think is a really interesting idea. I really believe in whether it's trade school or public university or your local commuter college, whatever it is, there should be an option for you if you're curious and you're not necessarily interested in grades to audit with more ease. That's the philosophy I believe in, because auditing right now is a nightmare. You know, I'm interested in law, I'm interested in politics, and I've looked into auditing at my local universities like UNC and NC State and Duke, and it's incredibly expensive, incredibly onerous, and I just want to sit in and learn. And so I believe that auditing and rethinking that process is something we can look at in the 21st century as well.
Laurie, what do you think about the various digital offerings? I'm thinking about the Udamis and the Coursera's. Like, I mean, what impact do you see that having on this model? Because that is a place where you can jump in and learn things, but it's self-paced, but it's virtual. I don't know. Where do you see that fitting in?
Well, you know, I've played in this space a little bit with my LinkedIn learning courses. No plug here. Nobody, you don't have to go look at them. But what I have found is that I'm really interested in the things I'm interested in, and my interest ends because I'm old. And I wish there were a way, maybe this will get a little bit better and a little bit smarter, for LinkedIn, Coursera, Udemy to understand who I am and to predict and to suggest with a little bit more personalization. I think that's the promise of all of this, right? This idea of personalization could be huge, but we have failed the consumer like me. So I'm waiting for that.
Oh, Dean's got some good ideas here. He's talking about a subscription as a service called ongoing updating of skills for free or a discount. So I don't know how many of y'all know this. My undergraduate degree is in agronomy, which is soil science. And I'm trying to imagine myself rolling up to the college bag, being like, hey guys, I'm going to need you to update my skills.
Oh, we have something from Michael Brandt. The system has got to stop glorifying a college degree over skilled labor career. Plumbers, electricians, and many skilled labor opportunities are in high demand. Even less labor-intensive jobs like software development don't require a degree to be good. So, Mary Ellen, let's talk a little bit about this. You've got a POV on this.
I do have a POV on this, and it's like, Michael, were you here for the beginning? So I think one thing to preface this with is I grew up in a working class family, as did Laurie, and I'm going to talk specifically about my experience. My grandfather and great-grandparents were electrician. My stepfather, truck drivers. I would not be very good at any of those things. I mean, I could have figured it out, but there's a lot of reasons why we have shortages in those professions. And it's not just because everybody thinks a college degree is cooler than trade school. One, it is not free to go to school to become an electrician. The very student loan debt problem that we just talked about is just as much of a barrier for that as it is for getting an undergraduate education. Our trade schools and our community college are also, we are under investing in them. Like they need love and money and attention, just like any other aspect. We are not supporting them, whether it's through public-private partnerships or if it's through straight up, like, let's restore government funding to these institutions again. That is a problem, like going to those schools and being in those programs and those apprenticeship programs. Two, the unions that like, protect those jobs that are the very reason they're high paying. Look, I'm pro-union. I used to be in a union before I was a business owner. I'm not knocking unions, but unions historically have not played a very supportive role in opening up those trades. And that is because by doing so, by creating those barriers, that's what maintains the wages. So if everybody runs out and goes and gets those jobs, like, I promise you, like, the wages, they will plummet. Like, they will plummet. So the unions are protecting their people. So the other piece of this is that finally there are historical barriers to this. I get Bitch Magazine, which is a wonderful, wonderful publication, been around now for 25 years. If you're not a subscriber, like, check them out. They're awesome. They had an ad in the last print edition that was geared toward attempting to recruit women, particularly women of color, into the trades. They got a long way to go, because if you want to know what workplace harassment looks like if you think it's bad in your white collar job, I dare you to go be a woman, particularly a woman of color, who strolls up to work in the trades, the high paying trades.
Yeah.
And there's just a lot of hazing. There's a lot of it's not about being a historically welcoming place. So all the things that make it high paying, there's a lot of factors involved here. It is not just because people think that it's cooler to go to college than it is to go to university.
I think the other thing we don't talk about is all the issues around employment branding that corporations have. these trades have them as well, and they don't work as hard on making these jobs seem interesting, highlighting the benefits, touting the benefits. And so I know that when family members of mine join from one organization to another, what they're generally doing is taking one set of problems and swapping them for another. There's a deep dive on what these jobs do, what the meaning is, what value they provide, all that kind of love and attention that we provide in the corporate world. It's not happening in some of these skilled jobs. So, Mary Ellen, complex all over the place. You know, I want to wrap this up today by really focusing on shift and what we're offering to the community, because I really feel like we can be negative when we talk about the world of work, but you and I are actually very positive about people owning their career, owning their future. So talk to me a little bit about what people can find if they sign up and attend our career summit called Shift.
All right, awesome. So again, Shift Digital Careers. You can go. Let me start over here. I'm very excited about this, okay? This is a passion project for us. So the idea is you'll come, you'll sign up with us, you're going to spend a whole day with us, or you can come to just a few sessions if that's what your schedule allows. And what we promise you is good, practical advice from people who are actually in the trenches of designing the future of work. They're working as coaches, they're working as HR leaders, they're thought leaders. This is a no bullshit zone. Laurie likes to say no scrubs. I'm going to say it's a no bullshit zone. We're optimistic, but we're not pretending like this is going to be easy. So we're focused on the mindset and the skills that you need to create your own digital career. Like that's what, whether you're trying to be an electrician or you're trying to be, you know, a digital marketer, it doesn't matter. Like,
I think one of the, I'm sorry, Mary Ellen, one of the other important things that I just want to add, because I'm so excited, I'm going to step all over you to do this, is that our speaker list reflects humanity. It reflects who is in the workforce, right? It's not just another group of people, white women like me, who are standing up and lecturing people about the world of work. We've pulled from a lot of different communities to really reflect issues, ideas, trends, perspectives that affect the entire population in the world of work. So we're doing our best to make sure we're creating an inclusive environment so you feel represented and your career concerns are actually part of the agenda. So, Mary Ellen, I'm so stoked that it's happening June 17th.
June 17th, we're going to be there all day. Check out the lineup. If you have questions that you want to ask us in advance, send them on over. But we're really excited about this. This is a good group.
I'm super thrilled. And listen, everybody, if you have any questions, Mary Ellen and I offer a money back guarantee on the day, of course.
Because it's free. Because it's free.
Definitely free.
I know. Oh, and yeah. And I also want to thank Fairy Godboss, who is, I'm pleased to announce, has joined us as a media partner. So some of you may have actually learned about our event through Fairy Godboss, and we'll be sharing some additional information about some of the resources that they have after the event so that you can continue to work on your career.
Well, Mary Ellen, it's pretty sweaty here down in Raleigh, North Carolina today, so I think we're ready to wrap up our conversation. But if y'all want to have conversations with us about student loan debt or anything, find us on LinkedIn, leave us a comment, and I guess we'll be seeing you next time.
All right. Thanks, y'all.
Bye.